Hi guys, Mr. Veerlink here, coming at you from the Classroom and Founders. I am going to make a quick video here about note-taking in this class. Hopefully you'll be able to refer to this as we start taking our notes. Um, and I'm going to use the notes that we will be starting with the year, which is the Human Origins notes. Um, So we're not going to get into the notes here. Like I said, it's just really going to be more focused on um, how to take notes in this class, okay? Because this is going to be different for all of us. Uh, so let's just dive right in. So you should know that when you take notes in this class, you should be using it in a notebook. It should be handwritten notes for our class notes. Even though it's recorded and even though I probably can't check, there's going to be some times where we take notes in class and it makes the most sense to have everything in the same notebook, okay? So please make sure that as you're listening to the videos at home, that you're writing your notes down in your notebook, okay? So all of the slides, notes, whatever you want to call them, are going to look kind of similar. They're going to start with the title slide, so they're going to look like this. It's going to be either a chapter or pages or some sort of other heading that is there to let you know what we're talking about. And then there's going to be objectives. So these are really important. Not only do they help frame our conversation, but it's also going to help me understand your learning. Objectives are a nice way for us to just kind of start with the end in mind, so that we can say, all right, at the end of these notes, this is what you'll be able to do. So I don't know if you're reading between the lines of what I'm saying. Hopefully you are, that these objectives are important and will show up again in the future. So do you need to write them down? Yes, no, it's up to you. The PowerPoint slides are all posted for all the units, so you can even follow along outside of the videos that I make once we get into taking the notes. So that's up to you whether or not you want to write down the objectives. And I'm actually going to say this for all of the notes, okay? So I'm just going to show us the first slide, which is Artie here, my main man, Artie. Artie, so when you're taking notes, okay, so I almost got into teacher mode and started talking about Artie. When you're taking notes, you'll notice that I have bullet points here, right? They're not full sentences. They're not fully flushed out necessarily, right? And I'm going to have questions about these. As we're talking about the notes, I'm going to be asking questions. These notes on the slides are for me. They're frames so that I know what to talk about and so I don't forget anything that's important. The things that you guys should be writing down, and this is important here, the things that you guys should be writing down are the things that I emphasize, okay? Like I said just a minute ago, you're going to have access to both the slides that I have and these videos, these note videos that talk to you about what is, what all these things are, what all the history is. So you're not going to need to write down the stuff that's written on this screen, right? You don't need to write down that Ardipithecus ramidus was more chimp-like than human. You don't need to write that down because it's there, right? You have access to that. The things you should be writing down are the things that I, like I said, emphasize, or questions that I ask, right? I might say, hey, I'm going to ask you guys a question about this in class when we have our class discussion around the notes. So think about it and come prepared with answers. Maybe I'll throw a discussion board up on Schoology and put some of the questions there and just see what you guys have to say and respond to each other. But the notes are a springboard for our learning, okay? They're not the learning in and of itself. So the notes help me tell you what's important. And I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to, find feedback. I'm going to make jokes. And it's our job together to understand, what's the most important thing. That's my job to tell you, and that's your job to figure out. So as we get into the notes this year, which we're starting this week, as we get into the notes this year, please make sure that you're paying attention to the things that I stress. Please make sure that you're writing down any questions that you have. Okay, one of the best tips that I can give you as we're doing this flipped classroom, learning the notes at home, is open up an email window or a Schoology message and have it set, addressed to me. And as you're watching the notes, if a question comes up that you have, pause the notes, type the question out in the email or Schoology message. Don't hit send just yet. But as you're thinking of the questions, write them down and write them in a way that's ready to send to me. If we get to the end of the notes and those questions still remain that I haven't answered in the notes, then that's when you should send the message, right? Put all the questions in the same message, that way I'm not getting hit with 1,000 emails and stuff. But and I'll get back to you, especially since if we're going to be learning this stuff at home, you should take your time during our class period or whatever to focus on the notes. Let me know what questions you have, right? So that's going to help either frame the discussion. I might get back to you and say, these are great questions. I'm going to ask you to bring them up in class. I might get back to you and say, here are the answers. Sorry I didn't mention it. I might post something that says, hey, I got a couple of these questions and I should have mentioned this. So here's the answers, right? So pay attention from communications from me so that what the answers to your questions are and how to access them. Your notes, let's talk practically speaking. Your notes should always be dated. You should always have the date that you took the notes on. You should also always keep them organized. Write down the headings. The things that I would write down, like say from this screen here, would be the name of the species, right? And then anything that I kind of talk about and say is more important, right? Again, you're going to have this data, primarily lived in trees. Okay, that's great. But I might ask a question like, well, how do we know that, right? How do we know that they primarily lived in trees? And that's something that I'm going to want you guys to think about and come to class prepared to answer. And then we can have a nice little discussion and, try to get to the heart of the matter. This is also going to be an important thing here, guys, because that means that in class, it's an extension of the notes. So you need to bring your notebooks to school. This is why I'm telling you to write them down so that you can then access the notes that you took during the video and supplement, add space, right? So that you can add in class notes from our discussions. And notice that not all of the answers are going to come from me, right? Sometimes I'm going to ask a question, hey, how do we know that they primarily lived in trees? And one of your classmates is going to come up with the answer. And I'm going to say, yeah, that's right. Everybody get that? Okay, cool. Moving on. So please pay attention to our discussions, not just when I'm talking, but when your classmates are talking, because oftentimes you guys are the ones with the right answers. And make sure that you're writing things down. That class discussion time, that's not something that we're going to get back, right? So that's the thing that you're going to really need to be practicing your note-taking skills. And we'll talk a little bit about them as we go into it. I'll remind you all to take your notes, but when we're doing a notes discussion, right? So that's just kind of the way that this year is going to shake out. Let me know what questions you have. If this is working, not working, we can try something else. Whether that's zooming in, watching the classes while you're at home. But I think this can work as long as you guys are willing to, do a little bit of effort at home. It'll make our class days a lot more interactive, a lot more fun, and a lot more engaging. So let me know if you guys have any questions about how to take notes on these on our slides here. And later in the week, in the next day or two, you'll see or three, you'll see a video posted on me talking through these notes so that we can, start learning, some human origins and some human history. All right, guys, that's it for me. I will catch you on the next video or in class whenever I see you first.